So there's one major problem with my 1996 Toyota Tacoma. The stock ECU is a boring lot that's only capable of controlling basic OEM functions and gives you no ability to tune, modify, or add more sensors. Simply put, it's outdated. So what am I doing about it, you might ask? Well, I've begun the process of modifying an OEM ECU housing in order to accept this. The Speeduino Ocelot board from WTM-tronics. This is basically a full standalone ECU that runs off Arduino and allows me to do modern things like coil unplug, launch control, flex fuel sensor, etc. So follow along and together we'll figure out how to modify our Tacoma from having a bland factory ECU with no features to having something modern and exciting. So I went downstairs and I removed my OEM ECU from my Tacoma. So you can see there's quite a bit of differences between the ECU for the Tacoma and the 4Runner one that I took. So first and foremost is, while the overall box dimension is about the same, the thickness is considerably different, right? This one is thinner top to bottom, and then it just has a lid that kind of, you know, goes upward to accommodate a little more room for stuff. Here, this part is thicker, and this is this side in order to accommodate the smaller connector. This one is cut open wider. So there's definitely some physical differences. So I'm going to go ahead and open this one just so I get familiar with the internals. But another thing that I'm thinking about is I'm definitely going to want to try and bolt this 4Runner housing into my truck and see if it bolts in. If it does, then I'll run it. If not, I guess I'll have to battle the clowns at the local pull apart so I can get an actual Tacoma ECU housing. We'll see how that goes. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and take apart the Tacoma one and see what it looks like on the inside. Brackets are different too, so we'll see. We'll see how this works. Man, this thing is dirty. Should have vacuumed it before bringing it in here. Alright, pull this lid and see what we're working with internal dimension wise. Internally it looks very similar to the 4Runner one, so that's good. There you go. If you ever wondered what this stock ECU looks like, you have it. Fancy, actually. The internal area is about laid out pretty much the same between the two of them, so that's good to see. The external is definitely about the same, so this one bolt in. So next step is I'm going to try bolting this thing into my truck and see if it does. So I learned a pretty useful little bit of information there. Basically, I took this 4Runner ECU and tried installing it in the slot in my Tacoma for my Tacoma ECU. Now, what I realized is, since it is the same dimension, it does fit in the space, but the brackets for these stick out too far, so it would not bolt into place. However, the brackets from the 2RZ ECU bolt right onto here, and then this will bolt in place. So this can be used, right, as a plug and play ECU housing for a 2RZ Tacoma, but you have to switch to the brackets, which is fine. So I'm going to continue with the process of modifying this ECU housing, and it being a little bit taller benefits me for getting some of the stuff to fit how I want it to. So I'll work with this and not wait until the junkyard gets another one and then have to go, you know, dig it up before all the vultures get to it. So another useful tidbit of information that I got from that installation is the simple fact that when you put this in, this hits a backing. So there's no room behind here for you to have connections that will work for you. So in order for you to have connections into here, they need to be along this side, because this side goes toward the center console where the radio is, and there's plenty of room in that space to work, so you can run lines through there and connect into here. Another thing is to make sure you have the right side. When you have this inside the Tacoma, right, this metal bracket here will be facing upward. So you want to have your ECU here, that way you know you want to drill on this side toward the console and not end up drilling there. There is room on this side, but it would head into an area where there's not much going on. So in order to really have easy access from the wires I'm going to route from the engine bay into here, plus the one to my computer, right, for connectivity into the ECU, I want to make sure that I drill into this side. Maybe the ECU one on this side, but we'll see. Because then I could probably make a fitted port, right, that would connect in there. That might be interesting. We'll see. For now, I'm going to content myself to set this up, start drilling this out, but also figure out how I'm going to mount my board in here. So knowing now that my ECU has to sit this way and that I want things to connect from this side, I'm going to go ahead and set up for the fitting on this side for the map sensor. Now, it's as if Toyota wanted me to put this fitting in here, because there's these holes that are countersunk in here, which should be able to stop right the little center section of my fitting. So I should be able to just drill this out so that the fitting fits, and then the fitting will sit in there in the countersink part. So in order to make that work, got to bore it out to 3/16. So got my 3/16 drill bit. I'm going to do this over the trash can because I don't want metal shavings in this area. Depending on where my board ends up, it may be more favorable to go with one versus another, and I don't know that just yet because I was playing around with the layout and I'm not 100% certain which way I'm going to go. So for now, let's just bore these out. That's one, and let's do the other one. You know, I feel like there should be an in-between step here. Like, it's aluminum, so it's easy enough to drill, but maybe having run a machine shop in the past has made me a picky guy. But I just like drilling stuff so that it's nice and clean. I'm already annoyed enough to be doing this with a hand drill and not a drill press, so phase 2 is going to be going to my dad's house and getting the drill press. Alright, so I'll go one size smaller. Instant easy drill. Then go up to 3/16 and much cleaner than the last one. Having done that, now take my fitting and I can just pop it in. And it fits in really nicely. So I may have to actually open the space here, the bore, so that this will sit in the way I want it to. It's not doing that right now. So mod number 2 is coming next, because what I want to do is I want this to sit inside the housing, right? And I want to be able to have a plate that, maybe one that uses this existing screw hole here and then another one on the other side, a plate that just bolts this down so it can't pop out. So using the fitting and a couple of bolts I have that I want to use, I kind of played around and came up with a setup. I used a center punch to prep the holes. So now I'm going to go ahead and drill them. This would be easier if I had a piece of wood under here. But this is aluminum. It would also help if I had a cleaner drill bit. And I did this on a drill press, would make it real easy. But let's just kind of get the hole started, and I'll get something to make this easier to do. You can see I've played around with the layout a little bit. Finally coming to the decision to do it this way. So I'm just going to go ahead and drill these out. Using a Sharpie here, the poor man's die chem. You know your drill bit's in bad shape when it's struggling to get through some aluminum. Drill press. Drill press is the way, people. Don't do what I'm doing. Alright. I think the next round of this we're doing over the garbage can to minimize cleanup. Alright, let's go 3/16. Do a quick test. This should go through. These are not going through, so I gotta widen that out a little bit more. One more drill bit size up. Alright, should be plenty. Yep, nice and clean. The center's just enough for the fitting to protrude, which is what I want. Now I'll go cut this out on the bandsaw. Alright, so I just very quickly cut this out on my bandsaw, then cleaned the edges on my belt sander. So I've got a fitting in from the back. This is not how it's going to go, but I'm doing that so that I can have this up against here, and I can mark where I have to drill and tap the two holes that are going to be for the bolts. So just really quickly do one of these. Alright, and that'll just give me where I want to drill this. For this rear one, do that, or I can do this. You know what, let's keep the theme going. Alright, so now that's marked. Let's hit that with a punch. Alright, so got the holes drilled. See if we can start tapping them. I like to start it with a drill bit, then just thread it through. Just thread these really quickly. I don't know how easy. I used to not like starting threads by hand. I always liked using on the drill press. More than that, there actually. 3-axis mill to start it. Just send it in there. This is aluminum, so it's nice and soft. Should thread without too much drama. Alright, so after a lot of messing about, I've got 2 potential mounting points that I can put my fitting in. As you can see, now this is not complete. I still have to order an end mill so that I can mill a little space for this fitting to fully sit in here and not stick up above the level of this wall, but we'll get there. The important thing is that I have the bracket made and now the fitting can be locked in place and it won't go anywhere. And I'm using the screws that were from the original brackets, since when I mount this I'm going to have to use the other brackets. So I'll just take the screws off those brackets over there when I do that for the like OEM 2RZ Tacoma brackets versus the Forerunner ones. So these were the screws from the Forerunner ones. They're the same as the ones for the 2RZ. It's the brackets that are different. These are a 10/32 thread, so I drilled and tapped for 10/32, and now these bolt on, and when I'm done this should look fairly, like original. So having the provisions for the fitting set up, the next real consideration is the USB connector. So let's set up for that. See what's going to be required. Now I'm going to want this thing to kind of end up over here somewhere. So just kind of ballparking this. I'd say the center is about there. Alright, so my hole should center about here. And then obviously the center of this thickness. And I can just bore it out until I'm larger than this. So let's get a diameter here. Well, 0.609. So I need my hole to be a little bit bigger than 0.6. I probably have a unibit that will do this perfectly. Center's about there. I'm going to stop at just a pilot hole here because I really want to take this particular hole being bigger and drill it out on the small drill press at my dad's house, so or I'll just borrow it and bring it here. But I can get the hole started here at least. Ultimately, however, the drill press is going to be the answer here. Probably put a unibit down on the drill press and go from there. Alright, so I've got the drill press from my dad's house. It's a small drill press. I have a very large one over there as well. That's mine. This one's my dad's. Obviously, I'm not going to bring the large one upstairs into my little tinkering room. So let's start putting work over here. Could not find my uni bits. No problem. Went and bought some more. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Have to buy stuff you already own. Alright, so I finished drilling this out on the drill press, and then I just went ahead and kind of faced it in here, traced around it, and then used my Sharpie to fill in what I traced. Then I put the connector here. I put an owl through each opening and hit it with a hammer just to mark where my drill points were. Drilled that. Screws weren't going to be long enough to really grab through this thickness. So what I did is I countersunk in here so that the screw heads would sit recessed, right? And that just allows them to come down more and grab this properly. So now I have my connection for my USB and my connection for my map here. That's all ready to roll. Now I've just got to figure out the bracketry for mounting my board inside of here and connecting all the stuff up, and then I can move on to the really complex part, which is figuring out what pin goes to what, and you know, kind of getting the wiring done so that this thing can really be plug and play. If you like this sort of thing, I will be doing this probably for weeks on end by the time I'm done. So I'll definitely be posting more videos like this. So if you enjoy this kind of content, feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you're notified when I post up another one. If you have any comments or any questions, feel free to leave that in the comment section. And as always, thank you guys for watching.